when the gospel is rejected, somebody would say, I'm giving it a consideration. I'm giving it a thought. Let me think about this. After he's heard him, he said, let me think about it. Remember, we had noted that whenever the gospel is being preached, faith accompanies that message. So if somebody does not accept the gospel wholeheartedly, faith does not come in. In other words, when somebody says, let me think about it, because the gospel does not lend itself to thinking, it lends itself to believing. So if a person says he wants to think, it means that he did not really accept it because faith did not come into his heart. There's an example I want us to look at in Acts chapter 26 from verse 24 to 28. Paul was before Festus and King Agrippa, who had Jewish antecedents. He understood the Jews. That was one of Herod's sons. And Paul was being accused of certain things. And so Paul now decided to lay his defense before Festus the governor and Agrippa the king. After Paul had narrated his story, let me take it from verse 24. Now, as he, that is Paul, thus made his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. Much learning is driving you mad. But he, that is Paul, said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak the words of truth and reason. For the king, that is Agrippa, before whom I also speak freely, knows these things, for I am convinced that none of these things escapes his attention, since this thing was not done in a corner or in private or secret. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you do believe. Then Agrippa said to Paul, you almost persuade me to become a Christian. This is the challenge of many people. They are almost persuaded, nearly persuaded. They are never fully persuaded. They are almost persuaded. In 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 12, Paul was writing to Timothy and he was talking about his incarceration and possible execution. And he made a statement. He said, I know whom I have believed, that he is able to keep whatever it is I have committed into his hand. That is the committal of his own soul into God's hand. He is able to keep it until that day. For I am fully persuaded that he is able to do that. There must be a full persuasion, not a partial persuasion. King Agrippa said, I am almost persuaded to become a Christian.